Indians working in the US have gotten the biggest shock of their lives. Yesterday, President Trump mentioned that any American company hiring foreign workers on H1-B visa will have to pay $100,000 every year to the US government in the form of a fee. Which means every Indian who will be hired by an American company, well, that company in the US will have to pay 88 lakh rupees, not one time, but every single year. Now, this means that practically all the Indians working in the US and are not already US citizens may have to come back, because right now this is a presidential order, and whether it's going to sustain in the US Congress or not, we can't really say.
Captain speaking, due to the current circumstances, obviously, that are unprecedented for us here at Emirates.
So that was an Emirates flight from the United States to India. And as you can see in that video, that was the moment people found out that Trump's new H1-B visa rule has gone into effect. And if they leave the country, they're not going to be able to come back in the country. So people started deboarding. They started because, yeah, H1B people who are in America right now cannot leave America. The ones outside, if they want to come in, it's going to cost them $100,000. Like, it's crazy.
Hello guys, welcome once again to the channel. I hope wherever you're watching, you're having a great time. Now, the other day we saw President Trump increase the fee that is always used to acquire the H1B visas in the United States. These visas have always been helpful to expat foreigners who wants to go to United States and work in different tech companies. For example, Amazon employs close to 10,000 workers who are under the H1B visas, and therefore President Trump's increase of this fee from $215 to $100,000 is a deterrent for any other person who would wish to get to the United States to work as an expert. And that really tells you that Trump's America First agenda was solely meant to ensure that only Americans get to work in companies that are American. And that has had an effect on one ethnic group, and that is Indian Americans. We know that in most tech giants in America, Indian tech guys have always been those who are sought after because of their talent, because of their level of innovation that they always bring to this field, and therefore they have always been absorbed at astronomical numbers. But then right now, this imposition of $100,000 as a fee for obtaining the H1B visa has led to many Indians feel uncertain of their livelihoods in America. For those who are currently working, they don't know whether this is going to be sustainable. They don't know whether they should book a flight out of America, go to India, because right now, while India is also developing as a tech industry, they are facing job shortages. Look at the population in that country. It's quite high, and the job opportunities are not equal, as it were. So I don't know how these people are going to survive, but Indians are currently crying, and they're saying Trump has betrayed their trust. He has not allowed them to achieve or even get to have the American dream come into fruition. This American dream that everyone has always touted is becoming to be an illusion for them. They are not able to have it because they are not going to be allowed to work in that part of the world. So I want us to listen to the clips that are compiled for you of Indian Americans and others giving their views about this decision. And those who thought that the American dream is going to be achieved, some of them are crying and saying that Trump has made it quite impossible for Indians to live in America. Let's watch this, come back and share our thoughts in the end.
Did you see this video of passengers trying to get off a flight after Trump announced that the application fees for H1B visas will be $100,000? This happened on an Emirates flight trying to leave out of San Francisco International Airport. That was on the same day that Trump announced that the application fees for H1B visas will go up to $100,000. Compare that to the fact that historically, the H1B visa applications has cost between $1,700 to $4,500, and that this new $100,000 annual fee will go into effect starting September 21st. That's why people are rushing to get off the plane, because the way it's being presented is that if you're in the country when the fee goes into effect, you don't have to pay it right now. But if you're outside of the country and try to come back in after the 21st, they're going to check to see if that fee was paid. And people weren't just scrambling to get off flights, people were scrambling to get on flights and being extorted for it. Like people in India with H1B visas saw the prices of flights soar because there were so many people trying to rush back to the US. Heck, some people who were in India when Trump dropped the news already missed the deadline because there weren't enough flights to get back home. And of course, the big tech companies are also scrambling, asking employees not to leave the country or those who are abroad to come back quickly. Now, there are supposed to be legal challenges, but it doesn't matter. In the meantime, the chaos is the point. Of course, they're saying they're doing all of this because U.S. companies keep hiring foreign workers and undercutting U.S. workers. That is a big, complex conversation that we need to have, and that needs to be had with businesses and how they treat their employees. But Trump's move is always hurting the employee, the people of color, the immigrants. This kind of whiplash from a Trump administration, both for companies and for people, is something that's genuinely making everyone think twice about investing or coming to the U.S. in any way. Because even if they do everything right, they can find themselves in this kind of chaos under this administration.
As someone who's entered in big tech and been around people who have been on H-1-B visas, here's my opinion on the executive order passed by Donald Trump. This will not have an immediate effect on H-1Bs who are currently working in the United States. What it will have an effect on are students who are international trying to get an H-1B visa. Unlike what most people are claiming, it is only a one-time fee, which means it doesn't apply to renewals or to people who already hold H-1B visas. But what does this mean going forward? Well, companies are going to have to weigh in how much they're going to pay H-1B visas in the future, and if that is worth a upfront $100,000 hit. There's also a lot of disinformation on whether or not H-1B visas get paid less upfront, and it's not true that they get paid less. They get paid basically the same up front when they're hired, right? When you hire an H-1B visa, I'm pretty sure you have to pay them the market value of that job. However, in big tech, there's this thing called refreshers. They're typically annual, and what happens is you get a new chunk of restricted stock units that you are going to get invested over the next 4 years. This is typically where big tech shorts their international workers. And along with how much their pay gets increased when they receive a promotion, big tech companies are still able to pay international workers less. And from my personal experience, I don't think that there's a really big discrepancy between the talent pool of international students versus domestic students. So when a big tech company decides to hire international students in droves, what I see is a company that's looking to just be able to pay these workers less down the road. I do think that there is a need to bring in talented H-1B visa holders into our country to make our big tech companies and other companies competitive. However, I do think that it has gotten out of hand, and big tech companies are just going to H-1Bs as the default so that they can save, a couple $100,000 down the line. And I see this one-time $100,000 fee as a way to incentivize initially hiring more domestic workers. I don't think now big tech companies are only going to hire domestic workers, but I think they'll probably hire more domestic workers now.
To my Indian Republicans who claim they voted for Trump because of his anti-illegal immigration, but pro-H-1B immigration stance.
This pretty much ensures that that's what's going to happen.
What did I say? 75% of people on H-1Bs are Indian. 75%. You guys could have had everything. You could have claimed that you were the highest earner, most highly educated, and one of you was also president of the free world. I honestly can't even imagine what that would have done for your superiority complexes. You would have been even more insufferable. But you would have had to share that title with Black women. And that to you is, for whatever reason, a bridge too far. It's for illegal immigrants. How many times do I have to tell you, you aren't special? It's so wild that you think because you came here on a flight instead of on foot that you're special. You're fucking not. You're not. They hate us all. But now that we're all recognizing this together, including this guy, I think everybody in the room should take stock of where we are. We've already hit tariffs and visas. What do you think is coming next? If I were a betting woman, green cards, permanent resident statuses, they are going to look into your visa applications. Any of you guys going for citizenship? Oh my God, the way that they are going to comb through those applications for errors, there are errors. Just wait till they try to figure out how you got your nanny here. You know what? For the next 6 hours, this has nothing to do with me. I'm going to go back to bed, and then later we'll reconvene to assess the damage you've contributed to.
We will compare the number of Indian H-1B visa holders to the total population of Indians in the United States. I know this is really hard to see, but if you don't want to take my word for it, you can find this information on the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services website. In 2019, Indians accounted for 74.5% of H-1B visas. On that same website, this provides information about the estimated number of H-1B beneficiaries in the United States. There's a range in 2019, so to tilt the number in your favor, let's take the lowest number, which is 619,327. So 74.5% of the 619,327 H-1B beneficiaries means approximately 461,398 are Indian. And at that time, there were an estimated 4 million Indians in the United States, which means that 11.5% of Indians in the United States in 2019 were H-1B beneficiaries. But that 4 million includes all Indians in the United States, not just working age. That's children, working age, and retired. So to find the number of households who have an H-1B beneficiary, I divided by 3.13% because that's the average size of the United States household. So 36% of Indian households have an H-1B visa recipient. The other thing about H-1B visas is they are non-immigrant, but they are dual intention, which means an H-1B visa is a path to applying for a green card and receiving citizenship. So there's no knowing how many more Indian households include working family members who had an H-1B visa but now have green cards or are now citizens. So it would be even higher. But 36% is not null. That is, in fact, more significant than I thought it would be.
Hi guys, welcome to yet another video. It's Ndagire here. Thanks for clicking on today's video. So, they say everybody has a day, and today it's Indians Day, because I remember very clearly in the times of elections with Kamala Harris, how they were so vocal about she's not part of us, she's not any part of India, don't want, her to be like our representative. But then here we are. It turns out 75% of most Indians are on HB1 visas. But these are the same people that actually thought if they voted for Trump, apparently he would never have them in any way. And there is a person that was so vocal that he even wanted to take away citizenship. Vivek Ramaswamy, guys, I hope I say the name right. But yeah, he was so vocal saying that if illegal people come into America and they have a child, that child should not be given, citizenship.
He says that if you were born in the U.S. but your parents are illegal, then that makes you illegal too. This is Vivek Ramaswamy, and he's running for the U.S. president. Let's watch this video real quick.
I would end birthright citizenship for illegal immigrants. If somebody comes to this country illegally and has a child while here, I do think we have to end birthright citizenship.
But does that mean you deport like a 1-year-old?
I think you do the family.
You might have seen the Trump's new proclamation about $100,000 for H-1B visa. So if you are in India right now, or if you know anyone in India right now, if they board the flight and if they come to United States before 21st morning 12:01, everything will be okay. So if you know anyone, please forward this. And if you know anyone who is on H-1B in India right now, tell them to board the flight as soon as possible.
H-1B program was created in the 1990s.
H-1B was 1990s. It was a split of the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952.
Right. The reason why so many Indian people are here in the first place, after World War II, after India gained independence from England, there was a need for highly educated people to end up running things in India. The government spent a bunch of money to educate people. What they didn't do was create the jobs that those people would then need to take. Same time in America, in the 60s, there was a real estate crisis. There was a financial crisis. There was the Vietnam War. So there was this huge brain drain, literally just people going to war. People were unemployed. People didn't have shit to do. People's finances were bad. A lot of people were in the shitter. Same time, America needed smart people. Created this program to have Indian people come over there, and they were all educated. Came over here in places like Alabama, Texas, wherever. Those people end up in motels. They ended up becoming doctors. They ended up becoming engineers. Now we have 2 or 3 generations later, the kids of rich kids, the kids of those people, the grandkids of those people running amok as American people.
Two things I want to go over. One, we were right about right-wingers just hating immigrants, period, not just illegal immigrants. Because they're doing a victory lap about this H1-B visa thing. We are effectively barring high-skilled immigrants from showing up anymore. In addition to the low-skill ones employed by tech companies that pay nothing. The second thing is that unconfirmed, but it's apparent that a White House official said this only applies to new applicants, not renewals. However, this is already after companies like Microsoft put out letters like this saying you guys need to get back to the United States today. Just like a lot of Trump's policies, it's immediate, really confusing, and racist. And of course it has a giant humanitarian impact on working American families. Honest working people's business trips and personal vacations and going back home to see family just got uprooted in the blink of an eye because Stephen Miller put this on Trump's desk and said you should sign it because it's great. This is not legally enforceable for the record. Good fucking luck getting everyone to pay all this money. The amount of administrative overhead this requires to hunt these people down and get the $100,000 or throw them in jail / deport them is insane. It's not going to happen, and I do think this is going to be blocked by courts, but for the time being, it's been 10 hours and it's still here, so. We'll have more updates as they become available, I guess. Another wrench in the Trump administration machine, I suppose. There's just something new and terrible that just hurts a bunch of people for no reason every day.
Just in, the American government has been scrutinized by India, saying that they are stopping Indian students from entering the US. Previously, during COVID, if a student applied for a visa from a third country, so that means if you're an Indian student, you go to Singapore, and then you apply for an American visa through Singapore, that would be easier to get into the US. The US has now banned that completely. And from September 2025, what will happen is that all students, international students that come into the US will have to apply for a student visa from their home country. Now, this is going to stop a massive influx of Indian students into the US because most Indian students come through a third country. This is a growing trend globally, especially in Australia. A lot of Indian students come through Ireland or whatnot. So this is going to stop completely, and the Indian students are pissed.
Crazy turn of events. My boyfriend had to get up out of our Italian pasta making class in Rome and leave. I kid you not, leave. Not the class. Leave Rome because of the whole H1-B $100,000 situation that's going into effect Saturday at midnight, and it's literally Saturday midday in Rome right now. So he had to be on the next flight back to make it in time. And so now I'm here solo, but he booked the next flight to anywhere in the US he'd be fine, which is crazy. He'll be fine. Italian vacations can happen again, like, not stressed, but it does make me wonder about, number one, people that can't just drop of a hat, buy a ticket back, or number two, too far away in a different country to make it back in time. Who have just like had their entire world flipped upside down overnight because it came into effect and happened so quickly. These are times we live in. Anyways, I'm gonna go shopping. Microsoft just warned all H1-B employees in foreign countries on vacation to come back to the United States immediately because starting tomorrow, Trump has implemented a pretty unexpected executive order where instead of $1,000, the H1-B visa application fee is now $100,000. He just 100x the fee. Also changed other rules like making the minimum salary to get an H1-B go up to $150K from $60K. The first is because Trump sees even legal immigration as taking jobs away from Americans. But the problem, of course, is that companies have not been able to find enough skilled engineering talent in the United States, which is why they're looking at people abroad. The other reason he's doing this is, you might remember we covered him firing the labor statistics chief because he didn't like the job numbers, but unfortunately firing her doesn't actually change the job numbers, which haven't been looking that hot even though the market is doing well. And by decreasing legal immigration, it does force companies to hire American workers instead, even if they're not skilled enough for those roles. The other way to get job numbers back up would be to take away tariffs because that gives companies the predictability they need to start hiring again. But obviously he doesn't want to do that, so this is an alternative where he just stops the visa programs, and that probably would pump the job numbers up. The other reason is he wants to pay down the American debt. Last year there were 500,000 applications for H1-B visas that companies submitted, which would have raised $500 billion if they had all paid $100,000. Of course, once the $100,000 fee is implemented, most people are not going to submit applications anymore, but Trump is still estimating like $100 billion could be made from this program because he's also letting people buy visas on their own for $1 million. I do think a lot of exceptions will be made to this pretty insane rule, especially for his friends. Like, my pod prediction is that he's going to give Zuck and all the people that were like front row at his inauguration an exception or have some type of backdoor loophole. So if he does do that, the real people that'll get screwed over in this are tech startups as well as hospitals, because a lot of people in residency in the US right now, as well as doctors in rural areas, are on H1-B programs.
companies are now going to have to pay $100,000 per H-1B worker that they have. Trump's base is pretty happy because they don't really care if you're documented or undocumented. They don't want immigrants coming here. Trump is also claiming that this is going to bring back jobs to Americans, which probably won't. You have to understand that H-1Bs are not like evil and stealing your jobs. Tech companies are sending them to H-1B workers because they know they can exploit them. 60% of H-1B workers are paid well below local median wage. So tech companies can pay them less and they can make them work ungodly hours because they know that their immigration status is tied to their employment. So if you lose your job as an H-1B worker, you have 60 days to find a new one, otherwise you're out. The companies that were using these workers to cut costs are not going to just magically start giving these to Americans that are going to ask for more money. They're probably just going to outsource the jobs. Another interesting thing here is the timing of this. So 75% of H-1B workers are Indians, and he has not been getting along well with India recently. So maybe this is retaliatory.
For fellow internationals and anyone working in the US on a visa, we are cooked. So Trump just signed an executive order that adds $100K yearly fee on H-1B visas. So in simple terms, what this means is that your company will have to pay the government $100,000 every single year on top of your salary just for them to be able to hire you. This is insane. As you can imagine, this will be extremely devastating to all internationals if it doesn't get blocked by the Congress or the Supreme Court. Because it basically makes it extremely hard for companies to hire and retain international talent. And if you have ever tried to get a job in this country as an international, you know how extremely hard it already is. So now this is gonna make it just like 100x harder. It's gonna be nearly impossible to get a job unless you're like, a top AI researcher who's like sought after by the top labs or something. Canada, here I come. No, but seriously, it might be worth it to start considering other immigration options or, different visas like the O1 visa that doesn't have this applied to. Again, this is major news for all internationals in the US. I really hope it gets blocked because otherwise it will severely impact international talent and high-skilled immigration in America. But I guess we'll find out more over the next few weeks.
This H-1B executive order is going to expose America's mediocrity problem. You will soon realize that America's greatest export is the fruits of the labor provided by the people they import. Silicon Valley runs this world, and they couldn't have done it without H-1Bs. Your phone, the internet, almost every fucking app you use was built by an H-1B. America's big tech companies and oligarchs are not moved by this, and slowly you all are going to realize that they don't give a shit about America. Because by disincentivizing H-1Bs, you're just giving them more incentive to outsource completely. To India or China, cheap labor is the name of the game. The moment America becomes unprofitable, their interests no longer align. Hypocrisy is also blatant with the introduction of the gold card. These people will scream America first from the rooftops, but suddenly a $5 million payment is enough to become American? Oh right, the only American value they care about is money. As if this country isn't already corrupted by rich elites, let's bring in some more from different countries. Because fuck assimilation, money is our culture. Believe it or not, we don't have a plethora of domestic talent. Our education system is mid, but of course there's no talks to reform that. But instead they target some of the most productive members in American society. Disincentivizing H-1B recruitment in favor of US citizens is like Kim Jong-un in North Korea hosting his own Olympics, but forgetting to invite the rest of the world on purpose, just to increase team morale. Participation trophy. It's myopic. It doesn't solve anything. Why is America behind? Why is America average? You're not making America great. You're at a critical time exposing us as mediocre. You are stifling innovation in the tech sector during the AI arms race. And you will soon see that big tech corporations really don't give a shit about what the president says. Because if Mark Zuckerberg became president, he would lose a significant amount of power. Wrap your mind around that.
Trump just signed an executive order that imposes a $100,000 fee on the H-1B visa, which is really just as well because the AI development was getting out of hand. We needed to slow that shit down anyway. He also re-unveiled the gold card, which now costs $1 million, which is essentially just a VIP line for Disneyland, but for staying in America. I guess if you've got the cash, you might as well ride the becoming a resident roller coaster in first class. By the way, we have no method to collect this payment, but I digress. Trump's immigration policy is just now a luxury paywall. Make America Great Again is just turning into Make America Gated Again. The next thing you know, crossing the border will come with a resort fee and a 2-drink minimum. Thank you for entering the U.S. Enjoy your bottle of despair and a coupon for the overpriced healthcare. You know who can afford the 100K visa? The same people that were already building AI to replace Americans. Congratulations, you've outpriced the struggling immigrant and replaced him with Elon Musk's AI chatbot. You know it's dystopian when the American dream is now a premium feature. You can't get in with hard work anymore. You can only get in with a black Amex and a LinkedIn profile that ends with .ai.
$100,000 every year. Yes, every year is the fee that a company will have to now pay if they want to bring somebody on H1B visa in US. This is a legendary decision taken by Trump administration to prevent the misuse of H1B visas. Sir, the major tech companies like HCL, Infosys, TCS, Cognizant, they don't even pay $100,000 as a salary to people on H1B visas. So definitely, the misuse will be prevented now. But I have a minor suggestion that instead of imposing a processing fee on H1B visa of $100,000, if you could just enforce that the minimum salary of a person on H1B visa should be $200,000 or $300,000 every year, I guarantee you that the misuse will definitely be prevented, and actually some money can go into the people's pocket who deserve more money being there.
There's this desperate urge to do postmortems of this election because it feels like it gives us some semblance of control. I am not emotionally there yet, but I do want to talk about why she lost so much of the Indian vote in spite of being Indian. And I totally get that there's going to be an immediate instinct to hang it on the rampant and pervasive anti-blackness in the Indian community, which 1000% contributed, by the way. 1000%. Some will blame it on the fact that so many Indian immigrants tend to lean Republican because, as I've said, they not only chase proximity to whiteness, but they believe that Trump's tax cuts will benefit them. In certain cases they will, but in most, sorry, Uncle Dage. Others will say that democratic social platforms like LGBTQ protections aren't something that Indians culturally value. Not no. Some will blame anti-Muslim sentiments and say that Indians would love a Muslim ban. Also not no. All of these things are contributing factors. But I fear that the answer is far simpler. Did you know that gender reveals are not a thing in India? Not because Indians wouldn't love an excuse for another party, but because it is actually illegal for your doctor to tell you the gender of your fetus. The Indian government had to step in and make it illegal for your doctor to give you basic gender information. If you're not Indian, you might be wondering, why would that be? Let's put our critical thinking caps on. Abortion is legal in India. Indian society devalues women to such a degree. This is a society that is so patriarchal and misogynistic that the Indian government had to step in to make it illegal for people to find out their baby's gender because female infanticide rates were so high that they risked destabilizing the country. I'm not kidding. Keep in mind, India does not limit how many children you can have. Many would say, unfortunately, they just don't want girls. Before you try to bring up Indira Gandhi, don't know how she got elected, why she got elected, and how unlikely it is that anything like that would be replicated anytime in the near future. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter that Kamala Harris was educated, successful, had achieved more than most will ever in their lifetimes. She's still a woman. They just don't love that. And I want to be clear, this is not even an age thing anymore. Gen Z Indian men voted against her in spades. They've been radicalized like every other group of young men. So, that's my take.
If you are on an H1-B visa, you cannot leave the country. You heard me. Just to straight up apply, it's $100,000 now, and you need to just pay that every year. Pursuant to blah blah blah, the immigration blah blah blah, entry into the US of aliens as non-immigrants to perform services in specialty occupation is restricted except for those whose petitions are accompanied or supplemented by a payment of $100,000. There are thousands of H1-B visa holders who are not in the US right now who now have to cough up $100,000 or just not have anywhere to go back to. Do you know how many fucking physicians we have that are on H1-B visas? It's a lot. In 2016, there were more than 10,000 physicians in the US with H1-B visas. In the 2025 match, nearly 10,000 international medical graduates secured first-time residency. These are your doctors, guys. You're not gonna have doctors. So let me get this straight. We're killing off all the healthcare workers, and anybody who's currently on one of these visas, if they leave the country to go visit family or something and they come back in, they need to cough up $100,000 $1,000. And we also have no way of collecting this payment, for the record. We don't have it, and it just goes into effect tomorrow night. So, yeah, that's where we are. We have effectively sealed off one of the few things that give this country the soft power it has. Its ability to attract great minds and talent from abroad, being obliterated because a bunch of people are fucking racists. Stephen Miller is the president, by the way. This should kind of put the nail in the coffin on that. Jarvis, commence the American century of humiliation.
Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Now, looking at how everybody is complaining, I believe this will not be the last group of people that Donald Trump is targeting. It seems that his plan is well calculated to have anybody who does not look white get out of America. I don't know whether at some point he will have to come for black Americans, but looking at how he's been targeting almost every ethnic group that lives in America, this might also be another area that he will explore. But currently it seems Indian Americans are the ones being targeted, and those especially who work on high-end tech companies are not going to have it easy anymore. They are going to be deported if that can work, or they're going to self-deport, because if their companies cannot pay the $100,000 how are they going to work? Because this is a presidential decree that must be implemented. So Indian Americans have their time to think of the best thing that they can do to make ends meet, as it were. So in September 2025, the Trump administration imposed a $100,000 annual fee on new H1-B visa applications, a sharp increase from the previous $215 registration fee. This policy aimed at prioritizing American workers has caused significant disruption for Indian H1-B visa holders, who constitute about 70% of the program's beneficiaries. The exorbitant fee, coupled with big tech companies like Amazon and Microsoft urging employees abroad to return to the United States immediately, has led many Indian Americans to reconsider their future in the United States, with some opting to return to India. The sudden announcement triggered panic, soaring flight prices, and emotional distress as families face separation and cancelled plans. The $100,000 fee is unaffordable for most Indian tech workers, whose salaries often fall far below this amount. Indian tech giants like Tata Consultancy Services, Infosys, and Wipro, which rely heavily on H1-B visas, face a dilemma: absorb the massive cost or scale back US operations. Many professionals unable to bear the financial strain or uncertainty are choosing to return to India, where the job market, though competitive, offers opportunities in a growing tech sector. This shift could strain India's job market, already described as stagnant by some, as returning workers compete for the new roles. Indian professionals are integrated to US tech companies, with firms like Amazon employing over 10,000 H1-B visa workers as of June 2025. The fee hike threatens to disrupt hiring, as companies may hesitate to sponsor visas at such high costs. This could lead to talent shortages, potentially undermining innovation in the Silicon Valley, where Indian talent has been a cornerstone. Some companies may shift operations to India or other countries to retain talent, while others might pivot to hiring American workers, aligning with Trump's America First agenda, though critics argue this could compromise global competitiveness. The Indian H1-B visa holders, primarily STEM professionals, have long been valued for their contributions to US tech innovation. However, the fee hike, combined with recent 50% tariff on Indian imports, has strained Indian-US relations and left many feeling unwelcomed. Social media reflects sentiments of a shattered American dream, with some Indian Americans facing job insecurity or pressure to leave. The policy's focus on highly skilled workers add uncertainty, as it may lead to stricter visa scrutiny, further complicating their stay in the United States. Returning to India offers both challenges and opportunities for Indian Americans. Indian tech industry is booming, with cities like Bangalore and Hyderabad hosting global tech hubs. But returning workers face a saturated job market and potentially lower salaries. The emotional toll of disrupted family ties and abandoned plans is significant, yet some see this as a chance to contribute to India's growth. The long-term impact depends on whether the policy is repealed or extended beyond its initial 12-month term. But for now, many Indian Americans are navigating a tough choice between staying in the United States, which is an uncertain landscape, or rebuilding their careers in India. That is the choice that they have to make. Trump has made his decree, and I believe that he wants this implemented as fast as possible. We believe that this is what is going to happen, and tech giants that have always depended on H1-B visas to help employ Indian tech gurus, they are not going to have that chance again unless they are willing to pay the $100,000 fine or fee that Trump has instituted. Share your thoughts down in the comment section. And if watching us for the first time, please remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share. We are on our way to 100,000 subscribers, and I believe your subscription is going to make us achieve this dream. Thank you, and let's meet on the next one.